It's in some ways an old community store. It's not just a shopping place, but it's where people come to catch up on the week's activities.
Every Saturday from November through April, Farmers Hall at the Vermont Farmers Food Center bustles with vendors, customers, and food, food, food. After $250,000 in renovations, this old foundry building has become the heart of a local food renaissance in Rutland.
Greg, how many vendors do you have in here on a Saturday?
We have 87 spaces.
Greg Cox is a farmer and a co-founder of the Vermont Farmers Food Center.
We opened this building up in November of 2012 with no heat. And because we didn't have enough money and we were struggling to figure out the most effective ways of doing it. Cheapest short term is propane modines. The amount of fuel that we would consume that first year just was frightening.
The cost to heat this 15,000 square foot space with propane was unsustainable. So Cox started asking around after alternative solutions to the problem.
I met Chris Callahan, and he was the first agricultural engineer in the state, attached with UVM, and we started conversations. He loved the project, and right around a year ago, there was the potential for some grant funds to put in a biomass boiler.
The boiler itself was designed in Austria. It's currently being built in Troy, New York.
Instead of using fuel oil like propane, a biomass boiler uses wood chips or wood pellets, and in some cases, grass pucks. Biomass boilers like this, that can burn a variety of fuels, don't come cheap.
The multi-fuel biomass boiler comes at a premium. A comparable propane unit heater would be about $3,000. A comparable fuel oil boiler would be about $5,000, and this unit is about $55,000. That does get paid off over time in fuel savings, and in recent estimates, I'm arriving at about a 3 or 4 year payback period to pay off that premium through fuel savings.
Industrial-sized biomass boilers typically burn wood.
It's very efficient.
UVM Extension agronomist Sid Bosworth has been testing how the boilers do when burning alternative fuels like switchgrass. Bosworth's research is in collaboration with a landowner at Meach Cove in Shelburne. After being cut, the grass is left in the field until the following spring. Then it's harvested as hay and pressed into pucks to be burned as fuel. When Cox heard about this, he saw how local fuel could take on a whole new meaning.
We would have the capacity in the future to be using waste product from agricultural producers. Oftentimes farmers have to cut to keep the hayfields in good shape. They cut around the edges, and that product is left on the ground and has no value. And we're thinking, this is another way we can help support agriculture and farmers in the region.
We've all known Greg for long enough to know that, if he wants something done, he's going to get it done. So if we were going to hitch our wagon to anybody around here, this was the place to do it.
Jackson Whalen is the co-owner of Vermont Maple Sriracha. His business is the first tenant in Farmers Hall, where they've built a kitchen to manufacture a line of sriracha-flavored cashews. For Whalen, having to pay for fuel oil is, well, nuts.
I would love to give you all the nice, flowery, good-feeling things about local and sustainable, but at the end of the day, it's really helpful for our bottom line because it's a much more stable price than propane. So we realize right now, this winter, we're riding out an artificially low dip in propane prices. So next year, what we're paying for gas may be twice what we're paying this year. We're reasonably assured that biomass is going to be a, steady increase instead of these spikes and valleys. But at the end of the day, it just makes sense from a business standpoint to hook into that boiler that's out there producing heat from renewable resources with a stable price.
Like the price of gasoline, the cost of propane can fluctuate drastically. A biomass boiler offers a business owner more control, which keeps more money in their pockets.
10 years ago, I would have never predicted propane would be below $1 per gallon for a wholesale purchase, and that's roughly where we're at right now, and that's surprising to most people. Yeah, fossil fuels are at a relatively low price point right now, and it does make biomass systems very difficult to pencil out. But taking the longer view, I don't think anybody thinks that we're going to stay at the propane prices we're at right now. And the other attraction for a biomass fuel that's farmer made is that they control their own destiny. And so it takes them out of the volatility of the propane and oil markets to heat their spaces.
Cox knows the investment in the boiler will pay off in only a few short years. He has another investment in Callahan and UVM extension, which Cox expects will go on forever.
One of the skill sets that the Extension Service brings is the relationship, and they are in fact that connective tissue between so many organizations. The chances of us realizing that there were funds out there for a project like this were little or none, because most of the farmers, most of the producers, and even many people in the community are not aware of the resources that are available. And sometimes it's not just what you know, it's who you know and how to put it together. The amount of hours that Chris spent on this project, it's just unbelievable. He was here anytime we needed him for whatever was going wrong, and really kind of actually pushed us in a lot of ways to make sure that we knew what we were doing, that this is how it was going to go. And, you know, we couldn't have done it without Extension, for sure. Absolutely. No, there's no question about that.
One of the main drivers for me is really supporting farmers and food-related organizations to do what it is they want to do. So for me, it was about helping the Vermont Farmers Food Center fuel themselves and heat themselves locally. And so it's a key driver for me to enable them to follow that wish and to meet that goal. It's also part of what Extension does, tying together the research. So the field research that Sid Bosworth and our other agronomists have done looking at the perennial grass crops to actually make fuels out of, tying that together with some of the combustion testing we've done with Meach Cove and Chris Davis up in Shelburne, to then have that all come together and support another installation which demonstrates the local sourcing for local heating is really what we're all about.
As a farmer, Cox always takes the long view. He knows in every single seed is the promise of a great harvest.
There's the here and now in what exists, and you have to operate within that. But you have to understand the potential of what the future can bring. We're like a new farmer. We have, there's a lot of money going out the door, and we have to make sure that it's spent well. This was absolutely money well spent.
In more ways than one, it's local food that's fueling a revival at the Vermont Farmers Food Center in Rutland. In Rutland, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.